Hi everyone, my name is Jen. I'm an author and a book reviewer, and I'm here today to do another recommendation video where I'm recommending so many children's books. So I am a children's author. I've worked in the publishing industry for over 20 years. I also work as a book reviewer for a company called Inclusive Books for Children. I'll link them down below, they're great. And I'm a parent. I have a 2-year-old daughter, and 18 months ago, I think it was, I made a video where I recommended over 100 beautiful picture books, and I'll link that in the description box down below. I'm going to do exactly the same thing today. Well, not exactly the same thing, I'm recommending different books, but it's another 100 books. I thought it was time we sat down and had a chat about them. You've been asking me to do that, and there's no going back now because, I mean, they're all piled here on the spare bed, and I need to talk to you about them so I can put them back before she notices. So some of these books are books that we read together and love, and some of them are books that are mine and she will get to as she gets older. And I don't know what order I'm going to do this in, and maybe we'll start with some board books and then we'll move on to hardbacks, and yeah, let's do it that way around. I will make a list of everything that I'm mentioning in the description box down below. It's probably going to be too long for the description box, so check the pinned comment as well. Do I need to say anything else? Probably not. Let's dive in. Okay, so some of these books are going to be books that you're familiar with, and some of them may be books you've never heard of before. I've got a mixture of like well-known classics here as well as more obscure ones. So yeah, something that we love to read is The Nackle Tree, and this is by Lynley Dodd, who is the author of Harry McClary, which is a series that we both love, but I talked about in the last video. This is less well known, I would say, in the UK. It's a counting book, you get loads of them, but yeah, we're counting different birds on a tree. In the mangle munching forest, there's a nackle tree growing nackle berries that are red as red can be, and all of the birds are kind of familiar but also not, and it's very tongue twistery and fun. I mean, everyone's going to know this one, but I could not mention it. This is John Klassen's I Want My Hat Back, and there are others in the series too, and other John Klassen books besides. This is the only one I'll mention here, but this is deadpan humour, and my daughter laughs at this so much, but I don't think she gets the joke in here yet. I don't think. But yes, this bear wants his hat back. Someone's stolen his hat. Who could it possibly be? Could it possibly be the rabbit that's wearing the hat there? That took too long to find for this video, but yes, I enjoyed that one a lot. Then we've got the Zeki books by Anna McQuinn. There are other books in this series as well that she loves, and other books about Zeke's siblings which she enjoys, but I just thought I'd mention these. So this is Zeki Goes to the Park, and this is Zeki Eats Out. I would say this is kind of the same as Topsy and Tim books that we had when I was a kid. You know, they're all about doing a new thing, going to the dentist, going to the park, learning to swim, going to nursery, etc. And there's something obviously very mundane about these books, but also because of that, kids love them. So I don't know how many times I've read Zeki Eats Out right now, but I could read it to you without even opening it at all. I also quite love the pun in Zeki Goes to the Park, because he goes to the park with his friend Yu, and they go on the swings and they do lots of things together, and at the end the last line is, "What a perfect day. I'm glad I spent it with you." The latter isn't, you know, in the book, but it's implied, and the adults enjoy that. Then I wanted to recommend some board books by Alice Melvin, who is, hang on, let me just put the books I've already spoken about on the floor, otherwise I'm going to forget what I've already talked about. Alice Melvin is the author of Mouse's Wood, which is a book that I spoke about last time, and I'll speak about more books by her in the like older section later. But these are board books which my daughter was really, and still is really, obsessed with. I'm going to link them with books by Xavier Deneux in a second, because these are books that you have to kind of work on yourself. So this one is Me and You, this one is I Am, which is about feelings, and this one is My Day, which is a book of actions, and it's centered around this family, this mum and dad, 2 kids. I love that it's the mum who goes to work in this one, and it's a stay-at-home dad, which you don't get to see very often, but it's got things in it like this: throw, catch, 1 or 2 words per double page spread. So that one says up, down. Then in the feelings one, we have got obviously different lists of feelings like excited and delighted, and then you have to fill in the blanks as you're reading it, which means that every time you're reading the book to them, they're going to get a slightly different version of it. Then we've got Baby Goes to Market. This is by Atinuke and it is illustrated by Angela Brooksbank, and this is about Baby who goes to market with his mum, and when his mum is not looking, the people who run the stalls around them give Baby things to put in the mother's basket without her knowledge. So her basket gets really heavy and Baby gets to have some delicious snacks, and it's got some very pleasing repetition in it. Baby loves oranges. Baby loves oranges so much that the man selling oranges gives Baby 5 juicy oranges. Baby grins. Baby sucks 1 orange and puts the other orange in the basket, and there's loads to spot in the background of the illustrations as well. Then we've got Bhorta Baby, which is by Jumana Rahman and Mayim Hook. And my daughter has never had Bhorta, and neither have I, but this is about making Bhorta. So splash goes the alu into the pot, bubble bubble baby, oh so soft. Chilies, 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 chop chop chop, spicy spicy baby, cough cough cough. The onomatopoeia and repetition in this are super pleasing. And this, I think, is the book I've maybe read the most out of any of the books in this pile. We've got The Democratic Republic of Congo by Mel Nyoko, illustrated by Joelle Avellino. And this is a book about Congo, and we've got lots of different words in here like mbote, batwabu, jambo, so different ways to say hello. Yummy, fluffy makate and porridge for breakfast. Crunch crunch, Tata likes his with peanuts. Yum yum. I again could repeat this one, you know, without reading it. There is something very pleasing about this one that my daughter very much enjoys. A book by Katie Harnett, who illustrated Franklin's Flying Bookshop, which is one of my children's books. This is A World to Meet, and I think this is a gorgeous board book to give to a newborn in particular. So it says inside, the world is full of things to meet. Things with hands and things with feet, etc. It's just very simple and pleasing. Yes, a very good gift. And speaking of simple and pleasing, we've got Emily Gravett's Orange Pear, Apple Bear, which is just very silly, different renditions of that. Orange, pear, apple, bear, apple, pear, orange bear, etc. It's just ridiculous, and it makes my daughter giggle. Now, I said I would link the Alice Melvin books that just had 1 word per page with the Xavier Deneux books. So let me just quickly show you those. These are, again, beautiful gift type books. I didn't realise until I did this video how many of these books we had. Some of them are so heavy, but they're like works of art, these. Okay, which one should I show you first? Maybe this one. So they have cutouts and embossing. They're really, you know, touchy feely books. This one is called Farm, and it's just got on each page different things to look at with keywords that you might want to discuss with your child. So this is a donkey that's eating a carrot, and it says here mane, saddle, hoof, muzzle, ear, grass, tail, carrot, grazing, swishing. So you can think about all the different senses that you might want to discuss with your child while looking at them. And I don't know how well this is coming across on camera, like if you can see the depth there. Like this one is sunken in, and this one, as I said, is like embossed. We have got this bird in their nest. So again, encouraging you to come up with stories or just to open discussions. I think this one will be brilliant. I think my daughter's a little bit young for it at the moment, but in the coming months in particular, I think it'll be really good. So feelings. So here we have got courage. It's an elephant about to dive into a swimming pool. We've got anger, which is a red crayon, and loads of scribbles. And again, the book is just very tactile. We've got one on vehicles. We have one on shapes. We've got one on underwater creatures. We've got one on numbers. This one is made up of dots. This one is particularly heavy. So one dot is a glowworm, all the way up to things like 7 dots make a giraffe, and 8 dots make a camel. Lots and lots of fun. And then the last one of theirs that I'll show you is this, which is their alphabet one. The thing I will say about the alphabet, and I found this for a lot of books, which I find perplexing given how we teach learning to spell these days in sounds and phonics, but all of the letters in here are capitals, which is a little bit frustrating. Anyway, so A is for alligator, B is for bird, when really it should be, you know, A and B and K and all of that. But, you know, it's still a very beautiful book and still very abstract as well. It says G is for garage. Love those. So yes, those ones, very beautiful gifts. These are the Campbell books. So yes, these are books that are produced in-house, and I always have a little giggle when I'm reading a Campbell book because my name is Jane Campbell, and also I have worked, not on these books specifically, but I have worked with Campbell books before, so I kind of feel like I have a bit of a link to them in whatever way. And my favourite books, not my favourite books, my daughter's favourite books that are Campbell books are the busy shopping books and the busy growing books. So these are ones, you know, that have flaps and things that you can push and pull, like, you know, opening, can I show you this? Opening and closing the supermarket doors. Yeah, lots of different things to spot, different fruits to notice. Here you can make flowers grow. Yeah, they're very, again, tactile books. She enjoys them. And the other one that she really likes is Let's Brush Our Teeth. Again, you would not believe how many times I've been asked to read this one. I initially got this one because she went through a phase where she didn't enjoy having her teeth brushed, as I think every young child hates at one point or another, along with hair washing. And this was one that she gravitated towards in the bookshop, and I thought, well, maybe we're onto something here. And it is about how we brush our teeth and how we can make it fun, and you can read the book while brushing their teeth. So whilst this is not the most exciting story at all, it has been a very useful tool. And even now, she doesn't mind having her teeth brushed now, but she still asks for this book sometimes about Aaron and Priya and their auntie. So, you know, if you're struggling to get kids to brush their teeth, maybe that one will work for you as well. I'm not going to be recommending things like the Gruffalo here because I don't feel like those books need recommending, but I am going to recommend one, Julia Donaldson, which is a more obscure one. I think this is There's an Owl in My Towel, and it's illustrated by Rebecca Cobb, and my daughter went through a period of just absolutely loving this. So it says, hello baby, let's sit down, but there's a hair in my chair. Hop away hair, back to your home. It's time for bath, baby, but there's an owl in my towel. It's time for breakfast, baby, but there's a mole in my bowl. Let's go out, baby, but there's a lamb in my pram. You can notice the pattern here. Yes, very joyful. Enjoy that one a lot. Some silly ones here. We've got Press Here. I don't think I mentioned this in the last video. I'm getting deja vu, but I don't think I did. But it's a bit like the book, This Book Has No Pictures, where adults are forced to do silly things when they read the book because the book's telling them to do it. So it says press here and turn the page. So you go beep, or at least I make a beeping noise. You don't have to if you don't want to. Next page, there are 2 dots. And then it says now press and hold the yellow dot again. Then 3 appear. And then you tap 5 times on one of them and 5 dots appear, etc, etc. You get the dots to move around on the page, you blow them, etc. It's very fun. And I do think my daughter was genuinely convinced that we were making the dots move for a while. I don't think she thinks that anymore, but for a while I had her convinced. This one by Priddy Books is fun if we're talking about colours. Red car, green car, a changing colour book. So it says, a lot of interesting things are red. A noisy fire engine, apples ripe and sweet, a very clever fox, I think that foxes are orange, but never mind, a talking parakeet, and a fun little car. And what I like about this is you pull it down and then it says different shades of red that you can learn. And it says, are you fed up with red? Pull down the tab and the car turns Green. Green is an awesome colour. Turn the page to see. And then you learn about things that are green, and then you turn the car maybe yellow, then blue, then multicoloured. Very fun. This is a very silly book about fruits. It says imagine if fruits. You can imagine that bananas are slides. You can imagine that watermelons are umbrellas. You can imagine that oranges make bicycle wheels. Again, this has tabs and things that you can pull. And another silly one, I've collected silly ones together apparently, are cows are pink. So it says, didn't you know that cows are pink? Oh no, wait, I don't think that's right. Cows are black and white, pigs are pink. And then you go through and you have to put all the animals back into their correct colours. And obviously things don't go as smoothly as that. Hold please while I reach for more board books. Now these are probably ones that you're very familiar with, but I wanted to mention them anyway. This is How to Hide a Lion by Helen Stevens. This is about a girl called Iris. Yes, Iris. So it is a lion who comes into town one day. He wants to buy a hat, but the townspeople don't like that and they chase him away. So he hides out in a house owned by Iris's parents, and they have a fun time playing together until one day the lion is discovered and he has to go and hide out with the statues of lions in the town square. Dream Snow by Eric Carle. I would say this is a more obscure Eric Carle, at least in the UK. He's obviously the author of The Very Hungry Caterpillar, etc, etc. This one is about a farmer who looks suspiciously like Santa, and he takes care of his animals in the snow. And there are flaps. And he gives his animals different presents for Christmas, and it's just very wholesome, a very quiet one actually. This one is not quiet. This is Hippos Go Berserk by Sandra Boynton. Sandra Boynton's books are just super fun, and they're much more popular over in the States than they are here. I've never actually seen them for sale in shops here. I've always had to import them, but I think Hippos Go Berserk is my favourite. One hippo all alone calls two hippos on the phone. 3 hippos at the door bring along another 4. 5 hippos come overdressed. 6 hippos turn up with a guest. 7 hippos arrive in a sack. 8 hippos sneak in at the back. 9 hippos come to work. All the hippos go berserk, and then all the hippos leave again in various fashions. Then we've got My Cat Likes to Hide in Boxes by Eve Sutton, again illustrated by Lynley Dodd, who did Harry McClary. So this is My Cat Likes to Hide in Boxes, but the cat from France liked to sing and dance, and the cat from Norway got stuck in a doorway, the cat from Spain threw an aeroplane, the cat from France liked to sing and dance, but my cat likes to hide in boxes. Enjoy that one a lot. 2 Maurice Sendak books that are some of my faves of his, and again are less well known, definitely over here, are one was Johnny. This is a counting book, but my favourite is Chicken Soup with Rice. My daughter doesn't love this one as much as I do, and I really wish she did, but I think maybe I just get really hungry when I read this book. Maybe when she's into learning months she will like this more. But it says, in January it's so nice, while slipping on the sliding ice, to sip hot chicken soup with rice. Sipping once, sipping twice, sipping chicken soup with rice. In February it will be my snowman's anniversary, with cake for him and soup for me. Happy once, happy twice, happy chicken soup with rice. I think my favourite is October. Is it October? Let me have a look. Oh yes. In October I'll be host to witches, goblins and a ghost. I'll serve them chicken soup on toast. Whoopie once, whoopie twice, whoopie chicken soup with rice. Yeah, I just love that one. Next we have Rosie's Walk. I mean, this one is very, very famous. About Rosie going for a walk across the farmyard and a fox who's trying to catch her, and he's just hopeless at it, and lots of hilarious things befall him. And again, this one makes my daughter laugh. These I have collected into nature. So I think in the last one I recommended, oh my goodness, what it's called, Little Turtles Book of the Blue, I think. So Yuval Zoma has big books for older readers like this, which is the Big Book of Blue. He has the Big Book of Blooms, the Big Book of Birds, the Big Book of Beasts, etc. These I would recommend for like 7, 8 plus. I would have loved these when I was a kid. but he has done abridged versions for younger readers, and 2 new ones have come out since the last video I did, which is Little Bee's Book of Blooms. And it says, Little Bee leaves her home in the hive. It's a bright new day and she wants to explore. Buzz, buzz, let's go. Little Bee flies through the roses as they bloom. The morning rain is falling on their soft petals, pitter-patter. So it's very simple, full of lots of onomatopoeia. I think my favourite though that's come out is this one, which is Little Robin's Book of Birds. And my daughter particularly loves the page with, can I find it? The flamingos, this one here. Little Robin waves to the flamingos. They're standing tall and nibbling bright pink shrimp. Honk honk. Yes, so if you have little nature lovers in your life, I think these are brilliant, as are these. Do I have all of them here? No, I don't have autumn. So I do have autumn somewhere, but not with me right now. So these are by Katerina Truckham. We have all of them. There are 4, 1 for each season. So we've got When Spring Comes, out of order, When Winter Comes, and When Summer Comes. Obviously there's an autumn one as well. And I just love the colours in this. Look at the end papers, they're gorgeous. So these are really simple. I say, hello Mr. Hedgehog, as he wakes up from his long winter sleep. So each double page spread is about something that's happening in that particular season. And then each book, there is something you have to find on each page. So in the spring one, you have to find, I'm assuming it's a snail on each page. In the summer one, I think it's a ladybird. I can't remember what of the other ones are, but yes, adore those. And then for older nature lovers in your life, Thames and Hudson have published these field guides. So a field guide to spring, 1 to, I bet you can't guess, 1 for summer, 1 for autumn, and 1 for winter. And this has like poems inspired by the season, talking about what grows at that particular time of year, what weather to expect, things that you might want to wear for the weather that you will be experiencing. And again, I just think this is lovely, and I would recommend this one for 8+. Got things like treasure hunts in, so things you could go out and try and find, ideas for arts and crafts. And these are by Gabby Dornay, and they're illustrated by Dorian Brewers. And I've mentioned Gabby Dornay before because she is the author of the If I Had a book. So If I Had a Dinosaur, If I Had a Polar Bear. I'm going to talk about the polar bear one later because I didn't get the chance to talk about that in the last video. This is quite different from those books, but yes, I just wanted to recommend that and mention her name in case you were familiar with her other work and didn't realise it was by the same person. In the last video, I recommended Dim Sum Palace by X Fang, so we're moving into the non-board book picture books now. This one I adore so much, so does my daughter. It's kind of a riff on Maurice Sendak's In the Night Kitchen. It will make you so hungry. Yeah, so I wanted to recommend her latest book, which is called Broken. I don't love it as much as Dim Sum Palace, but I mean, that is like a proper favourite of mine. This one is still very good. It's about a girl who is anxious because she has accidentally broken something at, is it her grandma's house, I want to say? I think so. Yes, it says, this is the story of Emma's cup and her cat Mimi and me, May, and some cake. So she blames the broken cup on the cat and then she comes clean later. Thank goodness. Love that one. Then we've got Milo the Knight. This is about a ladybird who is called Milo, and he really doesn't want to take his armour off and show everyone who he is. But then one day he does. And these have beautiful illustrations by Charlotte Parent. And let me show you what it looks like. I mean, look at that. Gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous. So yeah, for a particularly maybe anxious person, this is the Museum of Shapes by Sven Volker, and this is about a woman called Alma who runs a museum of shapes. She has a dog called Max, and this is for definitely for older readers. My daughter is interested in it at the moment, but really only the pages with Alma and the dog. So this is Alma's Museum of Shapes. There are some pages that she likes to interact with For instance, this one here, when Alma's thinking about all the shapes she could include in her museum, and you have to find all of the triangles. But then she's obviously less interested in pages like this, where they talk about what a triangle is and how it is made, which is a bit more mathematical, but I think she will obviously come to really enjoy it in the future when she's more interested in that kind of thing. But I just think it's really gorgeous. The illustrations in this are lovely. This is Alma arranging her triangles in the museum, and then it encourages you to look for shapes in everything you see, which I think is something that's really fun and something you could spend lots of time doing with your toddler or young child. So that is pretty gorgeous. Alice Melvin, I mentioned before, is the author of Mouse's Wood, which is a Lift the Flap book about Mouse who lives in a wood with lots of other creatures, and he goes to visit all of their houses, and it's just the most wholesome, wonderful thing ever. There are other books in the series now. I think I mentioned last time Mouse on the River. This one is Mouse by the Sea, where he travels along the coast. And there is a new book coming out later this year called Mouse Goes to the Mountains, which I think is set in the Scottish Highlands. Let me show you an example. It says, "A storm comes on the second day, while others stay inside. I battle through the rain and wind that blows and stirs the tide." Then this is the Sea View tea room, and inside you can see, I hope you can see, the animals having a lovely time. And as I said, very cozy and wholesome. Then we've got The High Street, also by Alice Melvin. Sally has to go to the shops and she has a list of things that she needs to buy. It says, "Sally's in the high street and this is what she needs: a yellow rose, a garden hose, a bunch of grapes, some roller skates, a cockatoo, a tin kazoo, a Persian rug, a stripy jug, a cherry tart, a candy heart." And will she find them? So each time she goes to the shop, you get the shop front and then you open it and you get to see what's inside the shop. And I would have adored this when I was a kid, and my daughter loves this one too. There's just lots to point out and talk about. Then we have got Lydia Brankovic, Circus of Shadows. I think I mentioned The Hotel of Feelings last time by the same author. That one was about a hotel where sadness or happiness came to stay and was really encouraging you to talk about your emotions. This one is about not talking about things that are bothering you and why that's not healthy. Laika's mum had told her that when someone was being mean or naughty, it was best to ignore them. So that's what Laika did. She went about her day as though her shadow was just a normal shadow. But the more that Laika ignored her shadow, the naughtier it became. "Stop that immediately," said Laika. "I'm in charge and you must do what I do." But Shadow wasn't listening. So again, a really good metaphor for talking about the importance of talking about feelings. Then we have Little Glow by Katie Sahota and Harry Woodgate. This is about how light is used in different religious or cultural festivals. So we've got Diwali, I think, in here. We've got Christmas. We've got Chinese New Year. And it's a great way to discuss lots of different events that may be happening throughout the year. Nabil Steals a Penguin by Nishani Reid and illustrated by Janisa Bianda is a very amusing book about a boy called Nabil who happens to steal a penguin when he goes to the zoo with his family and then is perplexed about what he should do afterwards. The penguin's called Pear and he wants to go with Nabil because Nabil's biryani that he's brought as a packed lunch is much more tasty to him than the fish he eats every day. Very silly. Then we've got In the Half Room by Carson Ellis, and I love Carson Ellis's work. I recommended her book Home in the last video, which is just gorgeous. This one is really eerie and I'd recommend it for fans of Goodnight Moon because it's got the same slightly perplexing vibes. I don't know what it is about Goodnight Moon. Again, I haven't recommended that, I think, in the last video or this one because I don't really feel like it needs a plug, but I do enjoy that one a lot. But yeah, we've got half chair, half hat, two shoes each half table, half cat. And it's about how you have to put the halves back together again, like half flowers in half a vase. Can you see what I mean by saying it's a bit like Goodnight Moon? So you meet the other half of yourself at the door. It also kind of reminds me of Audrina Finnegan's graphic novels. Yes, creepy, but in the best way possible. Then we have got Gustavo the Shy Ghost by Flavia Drago, and this is about a shy ghost who really wants to make friends but doesn't really know how, and the illustrations are very striking. As you can see, spoiler, by the end of the book he does actually make some friends. Then we've got Sweep by Louise Grieg and Julia Sada. I love Julia Sada's illustrations, which is why I bought this one primarily. But this is a book about emotions, about, you know, not sweeping emotions away and letting things build up. And that is illustrated here by leaves being swept into huge piles and not being dealt with. Very good book for talking about emotions. I discovered Dalif Ibkar this year and love her. This is my favourite book by her, which is called The Cat at Night, and it is about a cat that goes out at night. Look at these end papers. I love this particular style of illustration. Is it Riso printing? So on each double page spread you get two of the same image. So this is what we would see when Cat is out and about, and then this is what he sees of the same image. And then we have Deep Sea Farm, which is about a farmer who lives under the sea. And then we've got Bug City. This one is very tongue-in-cheek, very whimsical. So things like Mama takes care of the bug children and cleans the bug house. She makes up the bed bugs and sweeps the carpet beetle. So lots of play on words. This one I don't think really does need a shout out because it's very famous, but I just find it very funny these days, which is Avocado Baby by John Birmingham. I mean, I had this along with everyone else when I was a kid in the 80s and 90s, but I feel like it's funnier now because it's about a baby who eats an avocado every day and becomes really strong. And in the 80s, we weren't eating avocados. Avocado on toast was just not a thing that was something you would get at a cafe in the UK, in the same way you would obviously now. So yes, this is about a baby who eats so many avocados that he can chase away a burglar with a broom. The baby would help by carrying the shopping, moving the furniture and pushing the car when it would not start. Yeah, very funny. Then we've got The House with the Little Red Door by Grace Easton. I would recommend this one for fans of Mouse's Wood because it's a similar vibe. We have got a girl called, is it Olivia? Is she called Olivia? Yes, Olivia. She lives in a house with a red door. There she is. And Mouse lives in a tree in her garden, and it's got these excellent flaps here, and you can see all the different rooms in Mouse's house. And then one day the tree that Mouse's house is in falls down and he has to try and find another house, and they're both quite lonely, and it's about how they come together and decide that they're going to hang out. This is Petra by Mariana Coppo, and this is about a little pebble who thinks that they're a big rock, and I've always thought that they were a big rock until one day a kid picks them up and puts them in their pocket, and then also a dog picks them up, a bird picks them up and puts them in a nest, and they're just basically having an existential crisis because they thought they were huge and that the world not revolved around them, but that they had a lot of power. I am strong. I am a fearless, mighty, magnificent mountain. And then they realise that they're quite insignificant in the grand scheme of things, and that people can pick them up and take them home, and they don't really have autonomy, and that really kind of annoys them. But then this young lady decides to paint the rock and turn her into something else, and she quite enjoys that. And relishes the fact that actually, you know, she can change and be big or small, important, not important, mean lots of different things to lots of different people, including herself. Says, what will I be tomorrow? Who knows, but no need to worry. I'm a rock, and this is how I roll. Then we have another book by Alice Melvin. This is Counting Birds. And yeah, we've got a few counting books. I think this one is particularly lovely because her illustrations are so gorgeous. The house sleeps through the dark, warm night, but something stirs in the dawn's half-light. Cock-a-doodle-doo. One noisy cockerel is greeting the sun. Another spring morning has barely begun. And then we've got lots of different birds for each number. I think you can see as I'm flicking through. Hidden outside the thick garden shrubs, 6 small brown wrens are hunting for grubs. And not just birds that are out and about, but like birds that are painted on china, which I think is something you don't really see very often in counting books like that. Then we have got Bao's Doll by Bo Liu, and this is about a young girl called Bao who really wants an all-American Alice doll, is that what they're called? No, an Amanda doll, sorry, an all-American Amanda doll that her friends have, which is this blonde white doll, and her mum doesn't want to get it for her because they don't have much money, but also it's this symbol of capitalism in America, and it doesn't celebrate their heritage at all, and it makes her sad, but she doesn't have the words to articulate that to her daughter. She just says no to her daughter, you can't have that. So her daughter's really sad and then goes to the supermarket and steals one of the dolls and is caught, and then they're forced to have a conversation about like heritage, and it's just really beautiful and moving. Some surreal illustrations in this, which I particularly loved. And then, you know, at the end, they decide that they're going to make their own doll. Where is that? Here. Yeah. They make their own doll together, which is just gorgeous. Love that. These are very amusing. These are books by Matthew Forsyth. So we've got Poco and the Drum, and the deadpan humour in this I would recommend. Look at these end papers. I would recommend for fans of John Klassen. Similar vibes. Says Poco's parents, I think, had made many mistakes. Yeah, the biggest mistake that Poco's parents ever made was giving her a drum. They had made mistakes before, such as the slingshot and the llama. But yeah, this birthday they've given her a drum, and they have some regrets. And similarly, we have got Mina, which is about a mouse whose father is convinced that they should be friends with this cat and let it live with them. And Mina's like, Dad, what are you talking about? I don't think that we should be friends with this cat. I think that's quite a bad idea, actually. But her dad just won't listen to reason and thinks, no, we must befriend this creature. Very deadpan humour again. Excellent stuff. My daughter is obsessed with, that was the weird noise I just made. She's obsessed with Sam Usher books. We've got a couple out from the library. We love our library, and we've also got one that we had bought because she loves him so much. So these are books about a young boy and his granddad. The first one that we read, which I think actually is my favourite, is Rain. I don't think it was the first one that he wrote in this series, but it's just gorgeous because it's so slice of life. It's about this young boy and his granddad, and they're stuck inside all day because it's raining. The granddad is writing a letter to somebody. The boy is dreaming about being outside in the rain, and granddad says, we have to wait until it stops raining. So eventually it stops raining and they get to go outside. And then there's kind of a surreal element to most of the books in this series. So when they go outside, he imagines that it's, you know, a festival, like a water festival, like they're in Venice or something, because he's been reading about that while they've been stuck inside. And he gets to post the letter that his granddad had written, which is obviously something that every toddler loves, posting things. And then it says, back on dry land with warm socks and hot chocolate, Granddad said, you see, the very best things in life are always worth waiting for. And I agreed. I hope it rains again tomorrow. So Rain is my favourite, followed by Free, I think, which is about the day when a poorly bird turns up at their house and they try and help it, and then they set it free again. And Found is the one I think my daughter likes the most. It's not my favourite, but it's about the day that the young boy and granddad go to the beach and they rescue a seal, and they take it back to its parents. Let me find you, well, here's a double page spread where they find the seal and they decide they're going to borrow a boat and take the seal back home. Feels very Quentin Blake, the illustrations in that. This one obviously is going to make toddlers laugh because it says, is it a plum? No, it's a bum. I mean, of course, that's going to make them laugh. Is it a spider? No, it's a tiger. So you've got all these cutouts. Is it a house? No, it's a mouse. Sorry, I realise I'm looking at the viewfinder in this, but I'm trying to make sure that you're seeing things I'm showing you. This is one of the most recent books that we bought. It is by Dan and Finn Ajari. Yes, very silly. And then this one, I love. Could be traumatizing for some children. I'm not sure my daughter would like this one. Maybe she'll like it when she's older, but she's a very empathetic person. So this might be a bit too much for her, but it's called Hard Times for Unicorn by Michael El Fathi and Charlotte Molas. and this is about a unicorn who's captured from the wild and then is, well, goes through these series of unfortunate events. So it's basically lost in a card game. Someone uses her for fishing, using her horn to catch fish. Someone else uses her for jousting because they think it's like a, you know, 2-in-1. You can use her as the horse but also as the joust itself as a knight. A thief uses her to try and pick locks in a museum. She gets put in a circus at one point. She is also used in a fun fair to throw hoops onto, until the narrator of this book finds her one day and decides to buy her and then take her into the woods out on a train and set her free so that she can live her best life. So it has a very happy ending. Yes, just very ridiculous things happen to her in the meantime. Granny and Bean by Karen Hess, illustrated by Charlotte Volk. This is about a grandmother and a young child and the adventures they have at a beach. A bit like the Sam Asher books, it's quite quiet. And I think I love the illustration style in this because it's just very windswept. The herring gulls swooped, still they didn't head home. They walked through the wind and the sand and the foam, their hats blowing free, their hair in a tumble, but Granny and Bean not once did they grumble, their cheeks chafed red and their hair dripping wet. Still Granny and Bean didn't head home yet. Then we have Mama's Special Wonton Soup by Mei Wei Wong, illustrated by Jin Yu Zhu. And this is about a young girl who is sent out by her mother to get all of the different things that her mother needs for her special wonton soup. And then at the end, they decide to invite everyone who they got ingredients from, and they have a huge dinner together. It's just really gorgeous, all about community. Another silly one here, we've got A Rainy Dragon Day by Julia Volk, and this is about where dragons go to pee. That's the conundrum that needs to be solved. Where do they go to wee? Who knows? Then we've got Smelly Louie by Catherine Rayner. I love Catherine's illustrations. My first job working in a bookshop 20 odd years ago was at the Edinburgh Bookshop, and Catherine was one of our local illustrators, and I've always adored her work. But yeah, this one I love in particular. It's about Louis who's just had a bath. Oh, disgusting. And he smells of roses and apple blossom, and he just wants to get his unique smell back. So he goes and asks the rats and the foxes where they get their smell from, and then he goes and rolls in all of the most disgusting things that he can find. More books just fell on the floor until he's got his smell back. And then at the end, I mean, he's forced to have another bath and the whole thing starts again. But yes, very relatable for dog owners, I think. Oh, I mentioned Gabby Dornay before. This is illustrated by Alex Barrow. This is part of their If I Had a series. This is If I Had a Polar Bear. And these books are very pleasing to read out loud. The first double page spread always has pictures integrated into the text that you have to figure out. And then the rest is just words. So it says, I'd really like a reindeer. A narwhal would be neat, but I'd prefer the kind of pet with giant furry feet. An Arctic hare, too hoppy. A walrus, much too slow. I've got to get a mighty pet to ride across the snow. I really want a solid pet, reliable and calm, the sort of pet that wouldn't let me get to any harm. Oh, if I had a polar bear, we'd really get along. Not only are they hairy, but they're also very strong. So there's like a unicorn, there is a dinosaur, there's a crocodile, a kangaroo, a dragon, an octopus. I think the octopus might be my favourite. We have got this book here, which is by Robert Macfarlane and Johnny Flynn, The World to Come, illustrated so beautifully. Oh, and also Emily Sutton there as well. The illustrations in this are so gorgeous, and this is a celebration of family and nature and the seasons, and not history repeating itself, but everything kind of coming back round again in a beautiful way. Nearly there, guys. Then we've got Oh Dear Look What I've Got by Michael Rosen, illustrated by Helen Oxenbury. This did have a dust jacket, but I took the dust jacket off to protect it, but now I actually can't remember where I've put the dust jacket, so never mind. This is obviously the author of We're Going on a Bear Hunt, same illustrator of We're Going on a Bear Hunt as well, Helen Oxenbury, and this is about a kid who goes to a shop So I went to the shop to get me a hat. Oh dear, they gave me a cat. Oh dear, look what I've got. Do I want that? No, I do not. And then it continues. They get all of these things they don't really want, and then they have to make it right again. I Am Bat by Morag Hood. This made my daughter howl with laughter, and it is just extremely funny. There are other books by Morag Hood, but this is definitely my favourite. I Am Bat. I do not like mornings. I like cherries. They are my favourite of all things. They are red and juicy and delicious, and they are mine. Do not touch my cherries. If you take my cherries, I will be angry. I will be ferocious like a lion, but smaller and with wings. It's just so ridiculous. I love it. Then we have got The Snowy Day by Ezra Jack Keats. This one, again, I had to get shipped across from America. I think this is the first book in North America that was published, first kids book with a black protagonist. I think this was published in the 1960s. But this is about a boy called Peter who wakes up one morning and it's been snowing and he gets to go outside. I love these simple illustrations in this. Lovely. And I love his pink bath. Where's his pink bath? Here. A lovely pink bath. Yes, so a great one for winter. This one, again, I took the dust jacket off to protect it. I don't know where it is. This one is Me and Mama by Cosby A. Cabrera. Again, I had to get this one shipped over from the States because you cannot buy it here. But you could also do that. You can look for it on Blackwell's. They do international shipping. You can also look on Abe Books and stuff like that. But this one is really gorgeous. It is about a young girl and her mum and all the things that they get up to together on a very quiet day when the rest of the world doesn't really exist. So it's talking about what they're eating and also things that they have that are not the same but are similar. Like, this is Mama's toothbrush, this is mine, I get less toothpaste. I think I just love the details that are pointed out in this book because it feels so childlike. It's what a kid would notice themselves. Then we have some Miffy books. So I don't really actually love like the Miffy storybooks. There's something about the translation I think that doesn't particularly work for me, but I do really enjoy the non-rhyming translated books. Maybe they're more true to the original because they haven't been forced to rhyme. So this is Miffy the artist, and this is Miffy going to the art gallery and noticing lots of different things, as you can see by how crumpled these pages are. This book is very well loved here. One day Miffy went to a gallery. She enjoyed looking at all the works of art. So she's learning colours, and then she does some of her own illustrations. And Tate and now Thames and Hudson have published some books where you can compare illustrations of Miffy with great works of art, which I think is both hilarious and wonderful, and again just introduces talking points. So this is one that Tate published. This is Miffy and Vermeer, and this is a newer one that they've just brought out called Miffy and the Artist, and it's celebrating 70 years of Miffy, I think. It's got things like this. It says, Keith Haring loved to move his body. It made him feel free. He created bouncy looking pictures of people dancing. How do you like to move? Yes, so again, lots of different artists in this one. And then Thames and Hudson have also recently published these, which I wanted to give a shout out to. So these are reissued classics. This is Edward and the Horse by Ayn Rand and Ol Exel, and it's about a boy who really wants a horse, but he lives in New York and there's a sign in his building that says no pets allowed, no cats, no dogs, but it doesn't say no horses. It doesn't say no horses, so he thinks maybe he can get a horse. And I love the childlike illustrations in here and the use of colour. I think it's brilliant. Then we've got Locomotive, which is rhymes by Julian Tuwim, drawings by Lewitt and him. And this is about a train and all the things that you can find on each carriage of a train. Let me find you an example here. The illustrations are just wonderful. But then it's got a couple of other things in here as well, like the turnip, which is a fairy tale that I'm sure that you're familiar with, which is, you know, where lots of people try and pull up a turnip and they make a huge line. And then this is for older readers, but I wanted to give a shout out to it. Thames and Hudson, honestly, I know that they publish my children's books, so I am somewhat biased, but the reason that we wanted them to publish the books is that they publish such beautiful children's books. They published the Alice Melvin books that I've showed you, the Gabby Dornay books. Gorgeous. So this is for much older readers, but it's called The Book of Dirt, A Smelly History of Human Hygiene. And it does what it says on the tin, but it's about how different civilizations throughout history have dealt with or not dealt with dirt. And I look forward to reading this one and then giving it to my daughter when she's old enough to enjoy it. I guess this one is probably, you know, 8, 9, 10. Again, this is the kind of thing that I absolutely would have loved when I was a kid. I had a big atlas that I used to rest on my bed and would do all my homework on top of, and also use it, you know, as a reference point. Yeah, this could have been that for me had it been around back then. And then the final book I wanted to mention is this poetry collection here, which is called Dear Little One by Mara Bergman, illustrated by Claire Alexander. And the poems in this book my daughter really enjoys. I think poetry books for kids can be really hit and miss, but again, I feel like this one is very relatable. Leaving the park. The park was so much fun today. I really, really want to stay. But Mummy says it's getting late and we'll come back another day. But I don't want to leave the park. I'd rather stay till it grows dark. I kick my feet and I shout no. But Mummy says it's time to go. But we'll be back. Relatable, relatable. So those are about 100, if not more, books that I wanted to recommend to you today. As I said, I will list them in the description box down below. I hope this was helpful if you are looking for books for your young ones or to give as gifts to other people in your lives. If you are new to my channel and you would like to subscribe, that would be lovely. And if you enjoy the content I put out and you want to throw $1 in the tip jar, link to my Patreon is in the description box down below. I do monthly bookish chats where I talk about things I've got on hold at the library or new anticipated releases. I also talk about what I'm currently reading. I do monthly recommendations for things I've been watching. I do monthly bookish quizzes and lots of other things. So go and take a look. Oh, behind the scenes things for writing as well over there. And the support I receive over there allows me to keep creating free content for you on here, as well as offering you a little bit extra content if you sign up for it. Thank you very much for being here, and I hope you're doing okay, and I will speak to you very soon. Sending love. Bye.